going now.
Oh yeah. I officially have chat on and ready to go right at the beginning.
He's ready this time.
For once.
For once we're making history here, guys. First time Jordan's ready for on chat.
It's about time.
Because this room's freezing.
Well, with how hot it is outside, I think it's appropriate.
I mean, if we shut that vent, it would probably be pretty hot.
Yeah.
Three big dudes in here together.
Yeah. By the end of the podcast, we'll be freaking sweating.
All
right.
When I was coming in, everybody, or my cousin, she just moved up here from Costa Rica like a month and a half ago.
Uh-huh.
And everybody always down there because it's humid. They're like, well, but at least it's a dry hot. And I'm like, no, it's not good either way.
No. Although I will say, I lived in Hawaii for a couple years, and man, humid heat kills compared to the dry heat. But I also struggled with when I came back from Hawaii, all my like the inside of my fingers would they just
I did
so
that to me
dry.
too. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It was awful.
All right, well, yeah, you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it. You ready,
Alright.
Diego? Good? Good on
I am
sound?
ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, let's do this. What's up, everybody?
Hold on.
Hello.
Wait. Rewind.
For the podcast.
For the
There are people
podcast, yeah.
already on.
Alicia Annabelle is on the Twitch.
As always. Yes.
What's up? Thanks for hopping on.
She's
'Kay.
always first.
Yeah, okay, you can start over now. Sorry.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. We're here together fighting crime
Yeah,
and talking about Zelda.
indeed.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing with Diego.
Hello, everybody.
This
I'm
is-
Diego.
This is Diego. He's a longtime friend since we were kids,
Mhm.
even though we didn't hang out a ton throughout like the middle of our lives.
Yeah.
And then reconnected later, and now we're all good best friends.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, I'm mostly probably going to be referring to Jordan as JD because when I first met JD, there were two Jordans in my friend group, and he was the second one. So we
Was that
referred to
Fratto?
the first. Yeah, that was Fratto.
Okay.
Yeah. So and you know what? It's funny that
I
you say
refer to
that.
him as Fratto.
It's funny that you say that though, because now we refer to Fratto as Fratto
Yep.
and JD still as JD.
Yeah. It's so we ended up just avoiding the names altogether rather than like changing just one. Remember when we were kids, I asked the teacher to call me Joe, and everybody called me Joe for the longest time.
Oh yeah,
because we had 3 Jordans in the
Oh,
class.
that's right.
You
It was
asked
that
to be
girl.
called Joe?
Well, I was getting annoyed. Like it would be like Jordan, and there'd be 3 other Jordans in
Yeah.
there, and I'd be
Yeah.
like, "This is dumb, teacher. Just call me Joe. Like that's the first 2 letters of my name. Why not? You know." And so my teacher used to even like call mom and be like, "Hi, is this the parents of Joe Davies?" And he'd be like, "What? Like who's this?" You know. I actually have one friend who still calls me Joe. Her name's Ariel, and
Just so you guys know, we're probably gonna die a lot tonight.
That's
because
okay, man.
that's okay.
From what I understand, so we're playing Tears of the Kingdom tonight for everybody who isn't aware, and I'm barely just got this game and like barely started. Maybe
Yeah,
like
it
an
just
hour
came
ago.
out, right?
Yeah.
It just came out. How long ago? Like 2
May.
months? May? Yeah, okay, so May.
Came out
Close.
in May, and from my understanding is the thing that I really appreciate so far is there are a lot of cool callbacks, and one of those callbacks is you die really quickly and like really fast because you have like no armor and all of the
You still got to build your hearts and
Yeah,
your
like-
lives and stuff.
Yeah, there's a really funny part at the beginning. I was playing it the other day as I started, and it starts out. I won't give too many spoilers, but basically, like you see yourself come with 3 hearts, and
Dude,
normally you
spoil
just
it.
start the game.
Spoil it.
So like
Okay.
your hearts just get completely drained.
We don't care about our listeners.
All right. Well, sorry, listeners. Spoiler alert.
Sorry,
but
not
your
sorry.
hearts get completely drained, and you just watch it. Like you start out with like 30 hearts, or maybe like 40 hearts or something, and then they just got completely drained, and you're just like, yeah, that seems about right, and you just start the game with 3. So it was really cool scene, but
So
I have like no armor, as to speak. Like all of my clothes here give me no armor, so
That's
yeah,
okay,
we're gonna
man.
die a lot.
that's fine. We are here at the Super Davis Bros podcast. Death among our video game characters is
Common.
yeah. You're gonna fit right in.
All right.
Real quick, Alicia Annabelle said, Diego, state your last name. Are you willing to?
Am
Throw
I?
it
Yeah.
over the
I
air.
mean, my last name is Chavez. It's pretty. I don't know how unique it is, but that's
You
it.
know what? We should also say, this is our first international guest on the
yeah, I guess
podcast.
that's true.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Uh-huh.
cool.
So Diego, you're currently living in Puerto Rico.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Common, no, common mistake.
Costa Rica, and he's out here visiting.
Mhm.
And he, on the first episode, sent us an email and was like, "Hey, I'm coming out
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
month. Like, I gotta be on the podcast." So we were happy, and he picked Zelda. And at that time, I don't think you knew whether or not you'd have the game yet, or did you know?
No, I knew I would have the game. I pre-ordered it, and it just had shipped to my parents' house, so it was here waiting for me when I got
Oh,
here.
okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So like
So
one
you
of the
came here to Utah to get Zelda.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's perfect then. That's perfect to come on the podcast with us where we just talk video games. You're like, I just got this new game.
I gotta play this new game, and Zelda was always the game that I played. I mean, it's first of all, it's my favorite video game series of all time, and I've been playing it since Ocarina of Time, which was 1998 is when it came out.
So that was the one on Super Nintendo, right?
Nintendo 64.
Oh, okay.
Super Nintendo was actually, so Ocarina of Time, there was a 5-year gap between Link to the Past, which came out in 1991, and then which was the game that came out on a major console, and then Ocarina of Time was the next one that came out on a major console. The one in between, the ones in between were on Game Boy.
Oh, so it was never on Super Nintendo.
And they were
It
like
was.
the
Oh, it was just Link to the Past.
A Link to the
was.
Past is
Okay.
what the Super Nintendo one is called.
I mean, the Game Boy ones, I mean, I remember a lot of my friends, like, they were so popular to them. Like, I feel like, I mean, another topic we're going to be covering is underrated things.
In our
And
lives,
I think this was kind of an underrated game in our lives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
I
gonna
think
bring
there
that
was a
up.
lot.
that's honestly why I got on the topic. Is I thought, you know, and you can speak to this too, Jordan, but Zelda we just kind of overlooked it. We never played it, and I think
Yeah.
Mario 64 was the reason for that. That was kind of our world game, our open world game,
For
if you
sure.
could call it that. Now Zelda's a lot more open world, but I don't know why it just slipped by. And the funny thing is, I didn't even get into Zelda until I might have told this story on the podcast before, but last year or the year before, I had knee surgery, and I was like, I really need to try Zelda. And Jordan had, what one is that? Was that Breath?
That's
of
Breath
the
of the
Wild?
Wild.
Yeah, and so he's like, "Oh, dude, I got Breath of the Wild on my Switch. I'm just gonna give you my Switch while you're all doped out on Lore Tab and go play it." And I loved it. I was like, "Man,
Yeah.
I really missed out on this on my childhood."
And
That's a great way to experience Zelda.
On
Don't
Lore
download Lore
Tab.
Tab.
I mean, and that's what I did too. I mean, I wasn't doped up on Lore Tab, so I guess I missed that experience. But
It was wild.
I mean, when I had my surgery, I played it constantly while I was just bedridden.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
it's such a good like pastimer game where you can just get into it for hours.
you almost kind of need that, I feel like, because it's so open world. You need to have the time to sit down
Yeah.
and explore.
which
It's
is
not-
usually my struggle with a lot of these big open world games is I just don't unfortunately get like that specified time for a big game and to remember everything about it. But what is good about this one, I think, is they do good about the controls. Like they're
They're
there's
pretty
not-
intuitive.
they're intuitive, but they're not too hard to like re-pick up, and there's also not so much like upgrading your person as much like to remember what powers you have in a way. Like there's plenty of them, but it's not like,
right.
I'm trying to think of like a bit like Fallout. You can do like a million things, like. No, that's not even like Skyrim.
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
can upgrade
say,
your guy in every little way possible.
One of the things that I've always really liked about Zelda is
Diego,
RPGs.
you kind of talking the mic.
Sorry, that's right. I gotta move over here.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I podcasted. One of the things that I really enjoyed about, or I always enjoy about Zelda, is because the upgrading. They're all RPGs, and you have that ability to upgrade and get experience points and make your guy better. But often it leads to a lot of you have to like choose your lane, and sometimes you get locked into a certain way and you're like, I don't really like that play. Zelda, your upgrades are basically your weapons. Like the better your weapons, like each as you go throughout Zelda, you just get better weapons, and those weapons are essentially your upgrades. So
look at those weapons. Like
it's a
for everybody on
rock.
the podcast, he's holding a giant rock and a freaking dragon skull rock.
Yeah, so
we're gonna beat him senseless with these.
So
things.
right now, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be doing. I think I'm supposed to be throwing my weapons at this guy so that it kills him. But the problem is that he keeps moving around, and I have to.
Just real quick. Dylan said, "I love Green Mario. I love you too, brother." And Alicia Annabelle, I love that. I always say that. But she said exactly how I feel about Red Dead. I don't have time, but an amazing game.
Yeah, that's
Right.
a good game
Oh,
to bring
man.
up. To
Oh,
like,
but Red
to
Dead-
like Red Dead Redemption is so open world, man.
Mm-hmm. I started it recently, and I'm like, this is going to be another one. I won't be able. I want to, but I won't be able to get enough into it.
Okay.
It sucks.
Yeah, you got to be dedicated. I imagine when the next GTA comes out too, that's gonna be just one of those games that you got to just.
That
At
one's
least
apparently
with-
supposed to be insane.
At least with GTA though, you can open up that game, hop in a car, and start just driving around and messing
Yeah.
around with things. Whereas these games, I remember what I was so surprised with when I played Breath of the Wild was how much dialogue was at the beginning, how much story was involved with the game, and it really took time to kind of feel your character. Honestly, I think it calls to people because you kind of see yourself as the character, and you immerse yourself in this world, and you get to be this character that's really cool. Link's such a fascinating, cool, fun character. I think that's why it calls to so many people. The other thing I wanted to mention about this game is I guess Nintendo kind of dominated the 360 space early on, and it was really just down to the two games, Mario 64 and the 3D space, between Mario 64 and Zelda. And I guess what a lot of people point to is how well you were able to aim and utilize your weapons in the 3D space, where other games on the 64 really struggled to navigate that 3D space, whereas Zelda was one of the few games that the sword made a lot of sense. Your reach with your bow made a lot of sense. You could aim well, and it was very user friendly.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Ocarina of Time was my introduction to Zelda, and so I mean, for me, it made the most sense. Like when I actually went back to play A Link to the Past and all the other 2D ones later on in my life, and
You said 2D.
and
2D.
I said 2D. And I did not find them as intuitive because you're as a kid you're so used to your 3D surroundings.
Yeah, you have to like go side scrolling.
Yeah, and you're side scrolling. It just made things a little bit harder. And actually, I just played through A Link to the Past again, and I still had some troubles unless it was like in that game, if you have full hearts and when you get the Master Sword, you shoot these beams out of your sword. So so like if you just are full health all the time, you can just zap guys and zap guys and zap guys. And even to this day, it's still harder for me to play 2D games because I'm so used to that 3D environment.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, the 64 really did change so much for video game and the PlayStation. To be fair, they just changed so much for the the games that we now play, I mean, they're so realistic now. I can't remember which game it was that Jeremy, who we've had on the podcast, was playing this game. I think it was Last of Us. And it was terrifying. I remember watching him play. I think it was Last of Us. It was some type of zombie post-apocalyptic like video game. And I remember just being able to sit and watch him play a video game. And we were like in the dark, and it was terrifying. I was having such a good time just watching the game.
I could see that being The Last of Us for the terrifying thing. But I haven't fully played it through. I am also working on this one. I have like every game in the world to work through. I've started like 90% of them. Not really. I don't even have a PS5. But God of War. You can put that on easy mode and play, and everybody says like they'll sit behind you and just watch it, and it's a movie. Like that's
the
how good
graphics
it
are
is.
so good too in like these newer games that you really can just watch.
And they just have amazing stories.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for me. Zelda always. I think when I first came into playing Zelda, there wasn't really much to the story other than you save the princess. As the games have gone on, the story they've put a lot of time into the story building of it, and that's my biggest thing right now. Like for me, when I'm playing a video game, I'm not just playing for the gameplay, which is of course you're playing for the gameplay, but I always like that story element to it.
Yeah, I'd say that's really what separates Mario 64 fans versus Zelda fans, because there seems to be a little bit of like Beatles Rolling Stone rivalry between those games a little. You can both appreciate the games, but kind of people have their go-to.
Which one's which then?
Oh, for me, Mario is the Beatles. But honestly, it depends on what you're saying. You might be a Rolling Stones fan, whatever. But
I can get behind that comparison.
I feel like you would like Rolling Stones over Beatles.
No, I don't know if you remember, but I was a huge Beatles fan when we were younger.
I
still am,
man.
but
I can't remember yesterday.
It never goes away.
No, it doesn't.
I remember you, but I can't remember yesterday's moments.
Well, I think the thing, getting back to that, I think Zelda really called to people that the story of Mario 64 isn't what's cool about Mario 64. It's the gameplay, right? It's the ability to do these crazy maneuvers and get to these weird places and do these ridiculous jumps, right? Whereas Zelda is a lot more about this world that you're exploring, and it's a lot more about this character that you're invested in and trying to again, you kind of immerse yourself in the role. When you're playing Mario, you don't think like, I'm like Mario. But I do think when you're playing Zelda, you're like, oh, I'm this cool guy that's in this old school world, and I'm discovering it.
I mean,
I love that. Yeah.
I mean, to that point, look at this landscape. Like, look at
it's gorgeous.
What it's.
You see this podcast? You see this?
You seeing this?
Those listeners. Honestly, if you're just listening to the podcast, you really should go check out like just a little run through of this game, or just look at some of the images on Google. It really is a masterpiece.
And that's one of the great things, because even when you're playing the old ones, like the original Legend of Zelda, you start out in a cave and a guy says, hey, it's dangerous out there, take this. He hands you a sword and you go into the forest.
Those are the ones on the Game Boy?
Yes.
The Game Boy?
No, this is NES.
Oh, NES.
That's the original Super Nintendo.
Right. Those ones were like, the gameplay was like a Pokemon.
It's
like where you're just like
it's side scroller, but they almost try to make it look like a 3D space.
Exactly.
I really do wish I kind of played some of them.
They did release all of the Zelda for the main consoles for Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, and Game Boy Advance are now available on Switch online.
On the Switch. Yeah.
I should try them for sure.
Yeah.
I remember playing the N64 one time, and I went fishing as Zelda. I just walked up to the pond. I don't know enough about it, but I remember like, I don't know if this was like pretty much the whole map. There was like a cave you could go into. Then there was like this fairly decent size like grass area with a pond. And I don't know if that was the extent of that game. Like you go in the cave or you explore around this pond. But I remember like, yeah, you can go fish. And I was like, oh my gosh, you could fish on a game? How cool.
I do have a fun story about the programmer on that pond and fishing. I guess the programmer that was assigned to that, like he kind of had something to prove. They kind of like, hey, we want you to take this area and he made the ability to fish, and he like really took it to the next level, right? And when he like presented it, they're like, oh cool, yeah, we'll keep it in there for whatever. And that's kind of become like a very big deal in Zelda.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It really
fans
is.
love that.
It really is. You can go whenever you can go. You have the opportunity to go fishing in any Zelda game. You go. Like that's just what you do.
Yeah, and you like collect certain fish or it's
And-
for like the like trading and stuff.
In Twilight Princess, which was the game that was released for GameCube and for Wii, here JD, if you want to try this shrine,
I'll play for a bit.
go for a little bit. Right now, basically, for those watching the stream, mostly I'm just running around, going and doing as many shrines as I can to get more.
We're
hearts.
shrining.
We're shrining now, and so when in the original one where it was Ocarina of Time and you had fishing, you did it because you had to get these scales, and the scales let you dive deeper into water and go swimming a lot deeper. And you needed that
cool.
so that you could get different heart pieces or different things that were underneath the lakes.
I've never known. I've never even played that one. That's how sad it is. But back then you kind of had the games you had. You had the 2 or 3 games you had, and you either had Zelda or you had Mario, and that was your game.
And JD and I were just talking at dinner that this was one of the games that we got when we got our Nintendo 64 in 1998. We got it for Christmas. We got Mario Kart and Ocarina of Time.
Did you say 1968?
1998.
Okay, I thought you said 68. I'm like, what?
Sometimes I think I was born in
60,
1968.
man. Beatles.
You know? Yeah, Beatles. Rolling Stones.
Just for the listeners, so that you know that you're talking to a professional when it comes to Zelda. Diego, this is actually the first time we have the opportunity to meet, which is surprising actually, because I've met most of Jordan's buddies, and we may have crossed paths at some point, I'm sure, but he's got a Zelda shirt on. He's repping a Zelda shirt. He has a Zelda tattoo. His case for his Switch that he brought has Zelda and what was it? There's one other thing that you had that was Zelda. I can't remember. Oh, and his controller. Yeah, he brought the Switch controller that he has. So he is Zelda'd out, man.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty dope.
It's the tattoo I actually really want to redo. Because
what is it of?
It's a design that I came up with. And it's got the Triforce on it, the triangles, but then in each of the corresponding triangles are the symbols for each of the goddesses within the game. So the top one is Din's symbol, the left one is Farore's symbol, and the right one is Nehru's symbol. And they're all just stuff within the game, but I want to redo it because I want to do my whole back in something Zelda, and that looks a little bit better. I had one idea for what it was going to turn out to be, and I grew up and my ideas changed. But I'm still looking. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Showing the nerd cred here.
Yeah, dude. Well, what draw, I mean, if you could talk a little bit, we don't know Zelda, and obviously we've been talking for a bit about it, and I want to get to underrated things. But I'd love to know, you have, like I said, you got tattoos, you had this game waiting for you when you're here. You've played every game since the 64. So why does it call to you? Why is this game so, obviously it's important if you're willing to get, the artwork of it stained on your back for eternity. But why? What do you love about it?
I think it kind of just calls back to just the idea of,
I need help. How do you jump farther?
What do you mean?
Can you jump farther than that?
So you're probably going to have to rotate it. Oh, no, you got it.
Oh
no.
See.
Yeah, he knows.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, we're good.
And here I am trying to overcomplicate it. No, so, when I was growing up, my dad would take us out camping all the time. And so we were always out and about, we were always out in the wilderness or camping and everything. I think that's part of it. I also I'm a story guy. I always loved classic stories and the idea of a knight rescuing a princess. It's cliche, but I always liked that.
That's cool, man.
And with Zelda, with The Legend of Zelda, it really it embodies that. It embodies that whole story, but it gives you the opportunity to actually live it and actually play as that character and feel I'm out here and I'm actually going to go, do the thing. I'm going to rescue the princess. But along the way, and as the games have gone on, like there's more and more added to the games that you're just like, oh, but this is great. Like there's a function where you get two hook. They're called claw shots, but they're basically hook shots. They're these grappling mechanisms in Twilight Princess where you get two of them, and you basically are like Spider-Man. Like you can like zoom in between each two, and the hook shot shoots over and it grabs onto one thing, and then it brings you to it. So you get two of them, and there's one at one point, and it's a shame because it's later in the game, and it'd be really cool if they had like did it mid game where you could like shoot around and do the things. And so it was just kind of stuff like that, like going around and like fighting people with this legendary blade within the game. And like Link just goes around and he just helps people. Like he's got a goal.
Also, he looks cool. Like I never played Zelda, but back when Super Smash Bros came out, Link was my go-to just because he looked cool. He just kind of has a cool look. He's got the sword and the shield, and
the
boomerang.
Hylians, the Hylians are cool because they're like elf-like people. They've got the pointy ears, but then he's got like the classic like just elf look to him. He's got long hair. He's got the green tunic and his sword and shield, and he's just got a plethora of weapons that he can use at his disposal. He's got a boomerang. He's got bombs.
He's got a big old rock. He's
got a big old rock.
And then when like Breath of the Wild, I don't know if the older games had this, but Breath of the Wild had horses that you could ride on. Was that in those games too?
The horses didn't come around until Ocarina of Time.
Okay. Yeah. So that's cool. It's cool stuff, man.
Yeah.
What about you, Jordan? Do you have any thoughts or anything on Zelda before we dive into?
This is way cool, and I feel like I'm doing all right coming into this kind of blind to the new game and haven't played the old one in a while.
Yeah, I haven't played it in over a year and a half. So
I also didn't play enough of the old one. I didn't even get like, I bet if there was a percentage, like how much was done, I probably maybe made it to like 11%.
To be fair though, the games are huge, man.
They're big, well, yeah, they're big, but by comparison to, like, if you want to go comparison, it's not as big as like something like Skyrim or Fallout.
For sure. Yeah.
But that being said, these two new games, and when I say new, I mean Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they're so much more open than Zelda has in previous times. Like, traditionally with Zelda, like, you have to go through the whole rigmarole of you got to go to this temple, you got to go to this temple, you got to get this item, you got to get this item, and then you're ready to fight the boss. So you're preparing to fight the boss.
Right.
Technically, in both of these games, you can go straight to the castle and
just
fight
die
Ganon right away, and if you're good enough, you can beat the game like that.
Wow.
So
do they do speed throughs then, like Mario with this?
I haven't seen any yet, and I kind of feel like it calls to the community, like, that they show a little bit of respect for it in a sense, because I haven't seen a lot of and to that is I haven't seen a lot of spoilers. And because I spend my days on Instagram and I usually see spoilers to TV shows, video games, or whatever. I haven't seen anything from Zelda. Cool. The only thing from Zelda that you've seen so far is just these people building like the crazy
they have
things.
And the spoofs where you like go they do the teleport and they put it like through the human statues, like you teleport up through it. Like, I don't know if they should have added this.
Dude, I think I think you're right though. I think the fan base surrounding Zelda, there's a sense of respect for Zelda, and surprise. What was weird too? I called Link Zelda too for the longest time. I thought Link was Zelda.
Of people did that, I think.
Well, for those who are on the podcast, my shirt says it's Link and he's holding a sign, and it says, "Dude, I'm not Zelda."
Why don't you switch off? Why don't you switch off? I bet the chat's got a couple comments. He's too into it.
You need to wait your turn. Let me just get this part. But I have been watching the chat a little bit.
Well, I think, I don't know, unless there's anything else you want to talk about with Zelda, and maybe we could kind of come back to it too. We'd maybe get into some underrated things. But you got anything else on Zelda you wanted to make sure we hit?
The only thing I would say about it is, as far as the story goes, it's great, but it makes no sense. Like,
oh really?
Like, as far as the timeline goes, because a couple of years ago they released like a chronology of when the games happen, and it makes no sense. And I love that. And
that's kind of like
Mario
too. That dude that doesn't make it. So in theory though, Zelda's basically it's the equivalent. Now this is getting down to its bare bones. Okay, there's a lot more lore that goes into Zelda. There's a lot more cool character development, but Mario is basically.
I think you were on it though, JD. I think what you needed to do is lift this up here. Let's see.
Oh, halfway put it
Lift
on there.
this
or
up
something.
here.
For those on the podcast, we're moving boulders, trying to get Link up.
Dylan said the timeline is insane but fun.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you're kind of saying, Diego. But essentially, the idea is Link is trying to go and save Zelda, right? Zelda's the princess.
Correct.
And there's who's the boss character that is who's the Bowser of Zelda?
It's a guy. His name's Ganondorf or Ganon. Essentially, Ganon and Ganondorf are interchangeable people. Depending on the game, Ganon is the ultimate form of Ganondorf, and Ganondorf is like the human version. In the lore, Ganondorf is a male tribe of a male of this tribe that they only have one male born every 100 years, and he's like destined to be the king. But he usually is always bad.
But he's crushing on Zelda.
Yeah. No, he doesn't even crush on Zelda. He just wants to rule the world and destroy it, basically.
And she's like a leader of that world. She's kind of the idea.
Yeah. So the lore is that it takes place in the Kingdom of Hyrule. I cannot get this fit in there.
It doesn't
fit
there.
So I'm still gonna try this. It takes place in the Kingdom of Hyrule, and in Hyrule, basically you have here we go. I think this will work. It's basically ran by the royal family of Hyrule, which Zelda belongs to, and Ganondorf wants to basically take over that kingdom.
That was the teleport thing that they do through the butt of the statue.
Oh, okay.
They go all the way up through.
Funnily enough, that function was a cheat that the developers had in Breath of the Wild. So they had that function in Breath of the Wild, and developers used it because when they were designing it and they were playing, they created it because they didn't want to I have to climb all the way up this mountain, so they'd use it to cheat up and get up to that top of that mountain. And so then they decided, well, let's just give it to them in the second game.
Yeah, for those on the podcast, it's this cool feature where you can literally teleport through things.
Yeah.
So
also Annabelle says she's got she said good night to us. She's got to go. She's got to be
Annabelle.
up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, dude, she works early.
Good luck with that.
Well, let's talk underrated things.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably have other Zelda talks in the future. So we thought it'd be fun to just go over some of the things that we think. Now to clarify for those listening and to those on the stream, we made sure we said underrated things because next week Jordan and I are going to do our top 10 underrated movies.
Oh, okay.
And we didn't want to. It was easy to do movies, and so we're like, no, let's give that its own episode because that'll be fun. So we're gonna do underrated movies next Tuesday, but we have our lists of some underrated things.
A real underrated movie, because we will next week. So. Oh, God,
pause here. Wait
Dramatic
a week.
Pause.
Hit play. So I thought it'd just be fun to go over some of the things we think are underrated, and you got to back it up though. Okay, you got to give us why why it's underrated, and
you didn't tell me I had to.
You've got to back up your claims.
Full disclosure, JD didn't say I had to back it up, so
you better come up with a backup anyway. So
all right, I'm good.
You just got to defend it. So yeah, why don't we go? We didn't do a list like your top 5 or anything. I just have a couple different ones.
Yeah,
and I just started thinking.
randoms.
It was funny. It was hard for me to think of some for a while. And then all of a sudden they just started coming to me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to put this down. I got to put this down." So, so those on the chat, drop in underrated things that you like. We also have a poll. Maybe we should start with that. We had a poll where we had a lot of write-ins. We had people let us know what are some of the biggest underrated things. So I'll let you know the winner of the poll, but I'll go through the items that were listed. And there's a lot of good write-ins on this. So the first is brushing your teeth in the shower. Have any of you done that?
I've done that.
I maybe have done that once or twice.
Don't knock it till you try it.
But it seems very foreign to me.
At first, you're like, this isn't right. I shouldn't be in the shower with my toothbrush. I feel vulnerable. But I like it.
It's so nice. You can just kind of spit.
You know, since...
and it just washes off.
Just drip down here. And then your whole body smells like mint. But... since I got an electric toothbrush like a few months ago, or no, Christmas. That's what my wife and I got our gift for each other was electric toothbrushes. I haven't done it, so.
You into Mike wrote in and said mayonnaise on sloppy joes.
We did grow up doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know
it's
about
so
that one.
good. It's so good.
Is it?
People are we've been doing it up at the
try
lake recently, and we're like caking it in mayonnaise. We're like, you know what? It looks weird, but it is delicious.
I mean, I eat some fairly foreign things in Costa Rica, so I won't say too much more.
Okay, so here's the next one: the cold side of the pillow. That had a few votes. That might be the winner. We'll find out. There's a few. Cold side of the pillow. A brand new pair of shoes. The first moment you jump into bed at night. I love that feeling, dude. It's an underrated feeling. You like get out of the shower and like dry off, and you get in that nice cool bed, and especially if it's not made, that's not
Mixed with the cold pillow.
Yeah,
that's
euphoric. So the other one was the sound of opening a Coke. I just like that. I think that's underrated. A cool shower on a sunburn. That does feel good if you had like a freaking killer. I'm surprised you didn't vote for that, dude, because you get sunburns like crazy.
So bad, but yeah.
Thunderstorms, that had a lot of votes. We'll talk about it in a minute. Thunderstorms, the smell of clean laundry. I love the smell of clean laundry.
That is
I love it so much
boss
that
smell.
For a while my car air freshener was clean laundry. Because I just love that.
He just dumps his bag out in his freaking car right when he's done washing it. Like, this will be nice for the next 24 hours.
We have. I can't believe no one voted for this. I should have just voted for it, but I was voting for like.
Hurry, do it real quick. Oh, voted.
When they give you a lot of guac at Chipotle, when you're like
extra,
you get the big
anywhere. You could extend that to anywhere. Like when they give you extra anything,
dude.
When that employee does not care about that franchise and is like, here.
What's annoying is it's very rare to get that, and usually they charge like an arm and a leg for guac. You're like, could I get a little scoop of guac?
You know what?
You're like, yeah, that'll be $16.72.
Mine drives me nuts is I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat for like 8 years. So I ask for guac and I sub out the meat a lot of times with certain things, right? I'll do like veggies and add out guac. And they're like, okay, that's, $2.50 extra. I'm like, yeah, but I took off half the sandwich. Like all the meat's gone and you're still going to charge me that much?
That stuff's
hate that.
Yeah, that's super annoying.
We have oxygen. That is underrated.
It's one of the things you don't really think about that you actually need.
I think that was an add-in. I'll have to put in who put. I think you did. I think
I put in oxygen.
Captain Crunch cereal. I just think I put this one in not because I'm a huge Captain Crunch cereal fan, but everybody dogs it so much for scraping up the roof of your mouth. But if you let it soak just a little bit,
you gotta let it.
It's a good cereal.
You gotta let it simmer for a minute.
Yeah,
man. Just like any.
Like pour your bowl, then turn on your show.
Yeah.
Find the show, get it keyed up, and then eat your.
Oh yeah.
I didn't add oxygen.
Was it? I just put that.
I wanted to take credit, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Nope.
Diet Dr. Pepper. That was you, Diego. Diet Dr. Pepper. A couple votes for that one. The smell of fresh cut grass. You did that one, Jordan.
Yeah. I love.
That's a good one.
Smell.
The fresh air smell right after it rains. You did that as well. You must have been smelling things when you were doing this list. I do love that smell. That like cement, almost cement smell. You know
and it, I mean, you mix the two. Yeah. And you're like, oh, this smells so fresh. Like you just want to keep breathing in the whole time.
We get a lot.
Feels
It's
so good.
we get half the year rainy, half the year dry in Costa Rica. So like we always get that fresh rain smell.
Lucky.
A lot.
Yeah.
And it's
Lucky
and
man. I love that smell. Yeah, I do love the freshly cut lawn, like right on a Saturday morning. It's the best. Solo activities. I love this one, Diego. You put solo activities, movies, coffee, lunch, etc. I went to a movie theater when I was like 22 years old by myself because I had the day off and I really wanted to, I can't even remember what the movie was. And I went to like a matinee at like 11. I got a big old tub of popcorn for myself and like got like a, the megaplexes, they have like food. So I got like some type, like a pizza too. And I loved it. I looked like a freaking weirdo. I loved it. It was so awesome. So I like that one.
Yeah.
This one is on my list. First Sunday of the NFL season. This is AJ wrote this one in, and I did not think about that. That is one of my favorite days, is the first Sunday of the NFL. I know Jordan's not a huge NFL
I'm good.
sports guy, but I love that. So
it's all right. I like football and I watch football, but I'm not. It's fine.
I'm hardcore, dude. I have like podcasts that I listen to. I do the fantasy, everything. I love it. Yeah. So the smell of hotel towels. So Eric Larson wrote this in. He's an old buddy from high school. Yeah, they're really fresh. They're over bleached.
Probably the only thing they clean in hotels. That's nice.
I agree though. They do smell good.
Yeah, I agree.
I wrote in potatoes because I think that's an overrated food because you can literally live off potatoes. Did you know
Overrated?
Overrated food?
Underrated. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Seems a little fishy.
Have you ever heard of the guy Spudfit? He like ate potatoes for a year.
Yeah, you told me about it.
And he like his blood levels were like amazing. Like, you can just live off potatoes, and they literally kept people alive back in the day through the winter. So I just don't think we talk about it.
Yeah, there's the potato famine.
Yeah,
potato famine. That's why there was that huge Irish immigration in the 1800s.
Yeah. So they're underrated, man. They're underrated. Okay, and Jeremy wrote in canceling plans last minute.
Oh, I love doing
I know.
that.
I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
thanks, dude.
No,
You've canceled on
I
me
do
before.
not agree
I
with
didn't
this
know
at
you've
all.
enjoyed it.
It's underrated, man. It's like the best thing you can do. But nobody gives it credit.
It's
No.
messed up, Jeremy.
No, that's
I don't
wrong.
think that's underrated.
You're absolutely wrong.
Bad person.
We're deleting that off our poll.
Actually, I'd say sometimes it is nice though, dude. You're like, oh, I'm dreading going out to this thing, and you're like, don't you want to just stay home and get a pizza and watch a movie? And you're like, yeah, let's just say we're busy.
Like in-law stuff. You're like, oh man, I don't want to
I
go
don't
see
know
my
what those
in-laws
are.
or something.
Neither
like
does
that.
Jordan. I don't know.
I don't
about
either.
that.
I just think it's like a funny topic. Like everybody's always like, oh,
Yeah.
I gotta go see my in-laws.
Yeah, I'd bail on my mother-in-law to watch pizza and eat a movie. She won't ever listen to this podcast, so. Julie, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I'll see you on Sunday. Okay,
It's
so
all harmless joking.
Matt. So that was the poll. So the winner of the poll. Well, let's go from the. So most of them just had one vote. So in third place, there's a tie between the first Sunday of the NFL season and Diet Dr. Pepper. So that's the tie for third place. Second place is thunderstorms. And first place is...
Would you say thunderstorms are pretty underrated? I feel like a lot of people talk about them, though, personally. I think I hear a lot of people like, oh, I love when it rains and the thunderstorms. And
Yeah,
That's
fair.
true. Yeah,
That's
I would
true.
think.
I wouldn't
would
say
think
it's
that most
underrated, but
people-
I kind of... I think it depends on who you talk to. Maybe just your life dynamic.
Yeah,
you
your
don't
group.
see it. Whatever. I don't know.
So number one, drum roll, the winner. Drum roll, Jordan.
Dun.
Good roll.
Thank you.
Is the cold side of the pillow,
Oh,
which
yeah.
makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't love the cold side of the pillow?
I'll be honest.
But honestly, if you won the underrated vote, was it really underrated?
Is it really underrated? Yeah, yeah.
It's
Full disclosure, I've never
underrated.
used the underside of the pillow, so yeah, I'm a crazy guy.
Tonight,
I'm gonna have to try that out now.
Yeah, hang out, read a book on your pillow for a minute, and then kind of that first doze.
Scrunch it, flip it,
scrunch it, and put your head on it. Oh, it's the best.
Twist it, bop it,
yeah, bop it, smack it,
flick it.
What are we talking about?
Pillows. Yow! Yo, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
All right, so let's do something. Jordan, what are some of your favorite things?
Well,
your most underrated things?
I'd say my top was fresh air smell with the rain.
Rain after
rain,
smell
or
after
sprinklers, anything after water hits the ground, and mixing that with fresh cut grass. Like those two together are just like I just love that. And it was kind of funny. A few weeks ago, Dylan and I were walking outside. He was in front of us and he said something. I didn't hear what he said. He's like, that smells like great. He said something about like, that fresh air, fresh water smell, you know? And I was walking behind Danny, who's behind Dylan. And I'm like, oh man, I just love that fresh water smell. And Danny's like Dylan just said that, and she knew that we didn't hear each other, and I'm like, that's why we're friends.
What else?
And then,
man, you got a lot on your phone. Holy cow!
They're just
just notes too.
I'd say swimming in fresh water. Not so much salt water. Definitely not. Man, chlorine.
You got a thing for water.
Yeah. What's going on? Jimmy?
It just feels so fresh.
Yeah.
But I don't like.
What's fresh water then?
Well, that's like lakes or rivers, like that. I mean, there are lakes that are not that gross. They're
like a freshwater lake, though.
Like Bear Lake is clean water to me,
right?
And it feels so good to swim in. And then like a river, like cold water, just feels so refreshing.
That's true, because when I go to the beach, you always got to take a shower. You've always got all this sand all over there, and there's the sand, the salt water, and when you're in fresh water, it just feels cleaner. So
you can go,
and that's not even so much like I mean, it feels great to shower and stuff, but that's not what I'm referring to when I say fresh water, because obviously that's fresh water. It's like straight up like spring water, basically. Like you just get in it, you just feel good.
Oh. What about you, Diego? You got one?
Yeah, so I had the two that were on the poll. GD, I don't know if you want to try it. Maybe, I don't know what exactly I'm supposed to do here.
I just deleted my entire list.
I'm not exactly sure what you're supposed to do, but I know that you're supposed to add those wheels to the gondola and make it move somehow. I'm just not sure how.
Okay.
Because podcasting and video gaming's hard.
Thank you.
As we all know.
Thank you. Okay, everybody on the Twitch, quit being so harsh on us, man. Everyone's writing in. You guys suck.
You guys don't know how to do this.
It's hard when you're trying to keep a podcast going and you're trying to play at the same time. It's tough.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wrote in the Diet Dr. Pepper one, and then doing things by yourself, just because I actually went and saw the Super Mario movie by myself, because I was supposed to go with somebody, and they kind of bailed out at the last minute. Jeremy. And
you're encouraging.
And I just decided to go by myself, and it was great. Like you just said, I had this big huge thing of popcorn, and it was a great time.
Nice big comfy seat. Theaters are so freaking chill now too. It's like awesome.
Exactly.
You just look like a weird. You don't want to run into anyone in that situation. You don't want to be there by yourself, and then your ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend show up, and they're like, "Hey,
so what are you doing here by yourself?"
Oh, my date's in the bathroom. I better go check on them.
See, I don't know. I think I would be like, "Oh, I'm going to see it by myself." Yeah, I like to own it. The other thing that I wrote down was doing things immediately, or basically not procrastinating. Like when something occurs to you.
No wonder you don't like people that cancel on plans.
Yeah. There's not a bias at all. But because sometimes you're immediately rewarded for that. Like whenever you take care of the things that you need to take, like something occurs, you're like, oh, I need to call the bank and do X, process. Right. And you take care of it that way, then future you is like, oh wow, I'm really glad I took care of that right away because now I don't have to worry
I
about
got
that.
free time.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all about saving
Yeah, because
future
most
you
people
problems.
most people procrastinate, and my wife would love you saying that. She'd be like, yes, amen. She's like that, super organized.
Yeah.
She's like, get it done right away, and then you're good, and you have the rest of the day to do what you want.
That being said, I'm not a very organized person, so so that doesn't happen to me often, but when I do it,
It's awesome.
it's bomb.
He said doo-doo.
I thought the same thing, and then I was like, Jordan's gonna say this.
Along,
Mature.
well, we're speaking about that. I think another
No,
thing
let's
that's
not talk about it.
underrated is Scooby Doo.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say
okay.
dropping a deuce. I was gonna be like, you know what?
We all
is
enjoy
underrated.
it. There you go.
That's not underrated. That is very
Scooby-Doo?
rated.
Oh, I think Scooby Doo is super overrated.
You
I
think
that
so?
show's so
Oh, no
dumb.
way, dude.
I won't say
kinda
so
on
dumb.
that
I'll
side
watch
on that one.
it, but it's like it's the same episode every time.
But they're just kids trying to solve mysteries, man, with a talking dog.
How much pot did you smoke when you were watching Scooby Doo? Because that really determines how much
It does.
you enjoy that
It
movie.
absolutely does. No, I remember watching it when we would go to my cousin's house and they had cable and it would show up on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
Barbary, and I don't know what it was, but I love that dog. I love that talking.
Mhm.
One of my favorite reels that's popped up on Instagram recently is this interview from the first Scooby-Doo movie, the live action one.
I think I know what you're gonna
And
say.
Sarah Michelle Gellar's all getting into it. It's like it's this crazy mystery adventure with these kids, and she's getting all expanding like this whole thing on it. And then Freddie Prinze Jr. comes on. He's like, "It's a movie about a talking dog."
Yeah, I mean, what more? I haven't seen that.
What else do you want?
It's a movie about a dog that talks.
Yeah, and that's all he has to say.
You can tell
about
he's
the
kind of
movie.
like, I'm sick of answering these questions. But yeah, I've seen that reel. That's super
It's so
funny.
great. And then I actually only did do 5 because
That's okay.
I forgot. But this last one.
Well, let's save your last one.
Okay, we'll save my
Yeah,
last one.
because then you don't give them all up right now. I'll give a couple, and then Jordan will have a few, and we'll end on your favorite.
All right,
Does that work?
alrighty.
Okay, all right, I got a couple. I'm just gonna kind of list a few of them. So going to bed early, underrated, man. I'm getting old, and there's something awesome about going up to bed at like 8:30, taking a nice shower, doing some stretching, read a book, and going to bed early. Love it. Feel refreshed for the day. Charleston Chews. I think they're
Ooh.
extremely underrated candy.
Charleston Chews.
No one
are
ever.
really
They're
good.
so good. And
Actually, JD, I think if you shoot that thing with an arrow, it'll activate.
shoot it with an arrow, bro.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
I
just
think
do?
you
just
think
broke
of
my shield.
how is it like
Oopsies.
Hershey's bars are like on every counter and every like package of like around
Dang it.
Halloween. They're part of that group.
It's the wrong
but
way.
Oh, sorry, Matt. Go
But
ahead.
yeah,
You should be sorry. I'm literally like
pouring his
my
soul out
heart
of
is
my
on my
mouth.
sleeve as I'm talking about Charles and Cheese. You guys are like, there's no that's how you do it.
Charleston's Chews are lame.
Halloween candy.
I love
Charleston Cheese.
No, I will
dude,
agree
they're
with you
freaking
though.
good.
I had a Charleston Chew many years ago, and I haven't had one since. But it was really, really good. I remember
So
it being
good.
really.
You can
really
have them
good.
frozen too. They're good
Mhm.
frozen, or they're good like, dude. I love Charleston Chews. I also have a warm chocolate chip cookie, like right out of the oven, like where like the chocolate like melts in your mouth. Those are my two like food ones that I was thinking about that I really liked.
You're reminding me one of actually with the now that we're talking about food. In Costa Rica, there's these little. They're basically like Hostess cupcakes, the black one with the,
Right.
with the white.
Ho-hos?
They're
Ho-hos?
No, ho-hos are
Ho-hos
the
are the rolls.
rolls.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
cupcake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
it's
a
hosted.
cupcake.
Yeah.
And they have them in Costa Rica, but there's a different company that makes them, or a different their version of it. They're called penguinos,
Uh-huh.
penguins, but they're basically the same thing. I found that if you freeze them and you eat them like when they're like frozen, because they don't get hard, but they get like nice and just they get like firm, I guess.
Yeah.
And the icing in the middle gets like firm.
Choice. Choice.
Absolutely choice.
Yeah. I got a couple more, and then I just have a couple. like hills that I'll die on. So a vacation day of nothing, where you take a vacation day and just chill at home, have food ordered in, you just watch movies or play video games, and you don't do anything. Like you literally just spend the whole day doing whatever you want. And breakfast for dinner, I think, is underrated. And then I have two more. I'll save my last one for the hill that I'll die on. I went through a bunch of artists, and I had so many like musical artists that I think are extremely underrated. And I almost wanted to do like my own list of just artists that I thought were underrated. But I will say that the artist right now that I think currently is the most underrated artist in the business is Phineas. Do you guys know who Phineas is?
No.
Okay, see, most people don't know who Phineas is. Phineas is the producer and brother of Billie Eilish. So he was like the main writer, main producer. He produced, mixed all the album. He does tons of songs for, like, he's done songs for Girl in Red. He's done songs for what's her name? I can't remember. He's worked with Julia Michaels. He's done like a ton of amazing artists, and like no one knows who he is, and he's literally like the talent behind Billie Eilish, and everyone knows Billie Eilish, but Phineas is so underrated. He is the reason she's huge.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So I'll save my last one.
Real quick, Nick Foles just got on, that famous soccer player. And thanks for joining us again, man. It's really nice to have such.
Why don't you give the controller to Diego while
Sorry.
you're sitting around so people can they're not watching Game Over.
If they're watching Game Over, we suck.
And for those on the podcast, JD just died.
For those on the podcast, Diego's died a few times.
That is true. I didn't deny that.
And also, Sexy Chicken hopped on and he said, "Preach, brother."
Yes, he's probably talking about the Super Bowl or Sunday, NFL Sunday, first Sunday of NFL season, best Sunday. AJ, thank you for adding that to the poll, because that was the best add-on, in my opinion.
Nick Foles Carson said, "Breakfast for dinner is sacrilege."
Oh, no.
Says you.
You suck at making breakfast, then, is what's up.
I will say I have a bias, though, because I love breakfast foods. They're like my absolute favorite.
We grew up eating breakfast food. Our dad's from England, and that's just like all we ate.
And then he also said Backseat Lovers is underrated.
No, they're not, dude. They've got like 7 million monthly listeners. They're not underrated, Carson. But I showed Carson Backseat Lovers. They are dope, but they're not underrated. They're fairly rated. I disagree.
He said underrated.
All right, Jordan, what are some other ones? You kind of deleted your list. Can you remember some other ones that you had?
Man. No, and the bottom ones were good ones.
Oh, man.
I don't know what happened. It just like I hit it with my thumb, and I hate what I did.
Right.
I mean, a lot of them listed in the poll were pretty good. I'd say I don't know. I can't remember them.
Okay.
So
sorry,
I'm sorry
dude.
guys.
That
That sucks.
Technical difficulties.
I need to be better.
Jordan's got big thumbs.
Yeah.
All right, Diego, we'll end on yours. So I'll do my last one, and then we'll end on yours, okay? So mine is, and this one's going to be a hot take, cats. I think cats are underrated.
I think they're fairly rated.
Nah.
I'd say they're way rated.
Nah. Dude, people dog cats. Like, they have one bad experience with a cat, and they think they're terrible. I did not grow up with cats. I did not like cats. My wife was a cat fan. We got a cat, and it is the coolest pet I've ever had. The dude poops where he's supposed to. I'd barely have to clean up after him. He'll cuddle and then leave me alone. He doesn't like slobber all over me. They're the best pets, and they're underrated. People like think as soon as I say I'm a cat guy, there's judgment. There's like, you're a cat lady. Your house smells like piss, like all these things, right? No, those are bad owners and a cat that hasn't been trained. And cats are dope, and they're great pets. I stand by that, and
I will
they're
agree.
extremely underrated.
I will agree with all the reasons why they're great because I have a cat, and I love her, but she's also completely crazy. Like
That's kind of part of the fun.
I don't think they're underrated. I think there's like tons of cat lovers and there's tons of dog lovers. So I don't think it's underrated.
But they are. But I would say they're rated. I would say that they're not necessarily underrated, but I would say that they're.
I would say typically when you ask most people, there are very few people that are like, I love cats. They're either people that are like, I have a cat. You even have a cat, and you're like, eh. And that's what I'm talking about. If you had my cat, Matt,
you would be
that's
like,
what I'm talking about. I think cats. Now, I think you do sometimes just get stuck with a cat with a personality, and that's it. You're done for. But I could leave my cat outside. I could just throw my cat outside. My cat will live. You throw your dog outside, your dog's dead in a week.
Cats are very independent, and they don't really require a lot of attention per se, in the sense of like. And that, I agree. Like that, I'm like, I did have to leave my cat with somebody, but I can leave her for a couple of hours, and she's fine.
I can leave her for
and part two
like a
of
week.
this podcast is, are cats rated?
All right, Diego, what's your top one?
I've thought of mine real quick, and I don't want to forget them.
Okay.
Dipping your fingertips in hot wax.
Okay.
Remember, and then you could just pick off the little pieces. Well, I remember doing it with candles, messing with it. Underrated for sure to me. And then
I remember doing that.
But my mom had a salon, and she would do it for like
it's the Scentsy candles too. Oh, she had
like a whole thing you could stick your whole hand in, and we were like, you could like peel off a glove of wax.
It's not fetishes. It's
awesome.
Underrated things.
Oh my gosh, I mixed. Okay, are we doing
that? Makes a lot more sense now, JD.
That's 2 weeks from now, Jordan.
And then the other one was the sound of rain stopping when you drive under a bridge.
Oh, that is a good one.
Oh.
And there I go again, water.
Yeah.
I can't get away from it.
Did you have to pee when you were thinking of this list?
So badly.
All right, Diego, let's go with the last one. What's your number one and then we'll see if the chat has any others.
So my last one that I had, I thought about actually like maybe 20 minutes or something before JD got to Dylan's house, because that's where I'm staying. It is a band. It is also a music one. Jurassic 5.
Jurassic 5, that's a good one.
Jurassic 5.
They are underrated.
From like 2000s. You know, there's a Netflix documentary, and one of the members is on that documentary, and they just talk about the hip hop evolution. That's what it's called, actually, the hip hop evolution. And he talks a little. He doesn't talk about them specifically, but he talks about like the scene at that time.
Yeah.
But I remember listening to them back in like when I was in high school, early 2000s, and I forgot all about them until I like rediscovered them maybe a year ago or something. And I was like, man, this group slaps, man. These guys are freaking awesome.
They are good. You know, I think I could do a whole episode on underrated bands and artists, man, that I think just do not get enough credit. Like some of the ones that I had on here were like XTC was basically like they were the talking heads of the 80s, but they were like so underrated. I had the Starting Line as one of like, they should have been the Fall Out Boy. Like Fall Out Boy's huge, but Starting Line was way better than Fall Out Boy, and they just had issues with their label and stuff like that. But I could go on and on. But yeah, what about the chat, Jordan? Before we close out,
the chat says, well, Dylan said Mike makes the best bacon.
That's our dad.
Oh, okay.
And then,
he's obsessed with bacon.
And then Lame Astronaut said chips in bed is underrated.
No. You get all the crumbs and chips. Oh,
yeah,
man.
I mean,
Carson, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that in your bed.
Every time he rolls over,
it's like...
I mean, I'm all for the attempt of, eating food in bed and everything.
Oh, not me.
He said right after, he's like, chips, no more chips in bed. And he did like the emoji with the nostrils. Like
she's probably there right now. They're both in bed right now.
On their own laptops, and she's like...
Dude, I can't do bed and food. That's like they're two separate spaces and they're sacred, right? I can do food on a couch watching a movie, but in a bed.
Another
no
one's
go.
finding money in a jacket from last winter.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, finding money
that's
ever
nice.
is
And
like
ever.
nice.
For sure.
Score.
And then Lame Astronaut said, never say bad things about Fallout Boy.
I'm not saying bad things. I'm saying go listen to Starting Line and you'll thank me. Because they were way, way better. And they actually they almost signed to Fall Out Boy's, the label that Fall Out Boy was that Fall Out Boy signed with. But they took a different direction and they had some issues. Or no, it was the producer of the Fall Out Boy album from Under the Cork Tree. And dude, their albums are incredible. Go listen to Starting Line. Blow your mind.
Carson just said, best underrated thing, Super Davies Bros podcast.
Oh.
And he goes, stupid autocorrect, overrated.
That's a good thing to end on. We'll end on that.
Okay.
That's a good one, Carson. Thank you. So everybody, we next week we're gonna be talking our top 10 underrated movies. So that one's gonna be a fun one. We're actually gonna do the list. We're gonna go through the movies that we think are obviously underrated, but that they demand more respect. So
Agreed.
Diego, thank you for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me,
and
guys.
talking Zelda and underrated things.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and he came all this way. He crossed countries.
I traveled miles.
Yeah.
And over oceans and through streams.
Did
and
you
mountains.
like canoe through the ocean?
No, I just took a plane. But
Oh, okay.
Next time we expect a canoe.
All right.
You get 2 episodes we'll get a part 1, part 2.
All right. I can commit to that.
Remember when the maps used to say like how to get over bodies of water, when you'd say like you'd GPS, like I want to go to England, and then it'd be like, okay, turn right, turn left, whatever, go 90 miles and 1,000 miles over to here, and then it'd be like, and then at whatever bay, rent a jet ski and jet ski across the ocean
That was
like
real?
300 miles kind of
Oh
thing.
my
Like, yeah, it
gosh.
would do
No
that.
way.
It would
That's
say it in
funny.
Google. It was like in
Like
Google Maps.
MapQuest.
Yeah, MapQuest. It would be
Quest.
like rent a
Talk to Jerry.
paddleboard and paddle across the ocean.
Tell him Jeeves sent you.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
He'll give you the discount.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks the chat, Diego. Thanks for coming. It was awesome getting to know you and meet you and talk Zelda and talk all about these fun underrated things.
And we ask that you write in like Diego did. We love it when.
Yeah, please do. We'll
People
read
write
it.
in.
We'll read it on the podcast too if it's something cool.
Yeah,
So-
for sure.
As a closing remark, I just want to say that like when I first listened to the podcast, I was very, very impressed because it the sound was really great, and just the camaraderie that I was hearing and everything, it was awesome, and I knew it was a show that I wanted to be on, so I was
Thanks,
like,
man.
yes, and also I'm talking about Zelda.
Oh,
That's
thanks,
awesome.
man. Well,
That's
we're glad you reached out, and anytime you're in town, we'll have you on.
Definitely,
So-
absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
Okay. See you later.
All right.
Word. Yeah, so I think